40, 45, I can't tell. All right, this is Sports for Real with Coach Hall. um, Long day yesterday, capped off last night by more NBA action. As you know, it's every day now. It's either the West or the East is going to play until the two teams from the finals are declared. Last night in Minnesota, went back, stayed in OKC for game number two, down 0-1 after being blown out. A lot of people attribute that loss to rust and just a matter of getting their legs back. Well, now that you go in for game two, you figure for a better performance. At least those people that are highly optimistic that it's time for Minnesota to advance to the finals. Well, before I say anything about the game, let me recap about this optimism. As you know, the Wolves ran by the Lakers 4-1, and then they got by a depleted Golden State team, also 4-1. And now people are saying, since Minnesota was there last year, they had proved enough to people to make them think that they are now ready to go to the NBA Finals. Anthony Edwards, they want to make him the face of the league. So because of that, you overlook what OKC was doing. It's been clear to me for a very long time this year that OKC is, in fact, the best team in the West. I've been saying that. Go back and look at some of the videos. I'm telling you constantly this is the best team. But now you have everybody wanting to make Edwards the face of the league, and because of that, they want to see him in the finals. Never mind what OKC is doing. So lo and behold, they make an excuse for him why they lost game number one. Redemption time tomorrow, right, in the second game. Well, the game went kind of like it did the first game. It was Minnesota was nip and tuck, and then the third quarter happened, and the Thunder sprinted away from them. Same thing happened last night, but one glaring problem for Minnesota in the first game. Julius Randle hit all those three-pointers and he had over 20 points. In the second half, he scored about 8. Yesterday, he didn't score 8 for the whole game. So if there's something to worry about, is what happened to Randle. They have no prayer if Randle does not show up. All right, before I get started, young fighter, what's going on, man? You don't want to dunk on me, man. I'll take you to the hole, whoever you are. Sound like one of them young kids I know. Good morning, JC. How you doing, man? Why not talk about something more important? What do you want to talk about, man? What's more important than sports? It's the valve that allows us to continue on through our daily lives. If you go pent up, worried about this and worried about that, and you got no diversion, you're going to explode. So sports is a great way to level us off. And it's always something to talk about when it comes to sports. Akeem Glass, how you doing, man? But it's alarming that Randall only scored 6 points last night. They put him out in the fourth quarter because he wasn't having a good game. But they don't have a prayer if Randall is not having a great game. Well, I like to hear what they're going to say now about why Minnesota is 0-2. I already know before I even start listening what they're going to say. Well, the Thunder are home, and they should win at home. Like it's guaranteed that you should win on your home floor. Of course, if you've been watching sports for any length of time, you know that just because you're home does not guarantee you a spot on the victory stand. And it's just an example of that people that they just don't want to give OKC the credit that they deserve. Now, the question I asked today, can Minnesota get at least one game out of this series? Well, that's going to see what happens, determined by what happens tomorrow night. And it doesn't make a difference where you play, unless the NBA steps in and say that this team has been chosen to win this game, and you guys are going to act like you're trying to win, but you're going to blow it. Unless the league steps in and does that, I don't see what adjustments Minnesota can make, especially coming out of halftime, that can keep them closer to OKC. If Gilgis is able to get his 30 points, then that takes a lot of pressure off the other role players. Last night, those guys were killing it in the second half off the bench. In the first half, it was Minnesota players who was hitting off the bench, and they haven't put a whole game together yet. Now, given how some NBA players are greatly energized by their home crowd, and they seem like they can't play no other way unless they're at home, maybe you would get a continued performance from their bench as well as the 30 or more points that Edwards got last night. One thing I noticed, his 3-point shot is on line. He just rimmed out. He rimmed out like 4 times. He did hit one that I saw, and he just said, man, forget all this. I'm just going to take it to the hole. Well, once he started doing that, he was very effective at it. And the kickout lanes are there for 3-point shots. So I think what you might see Minnesota doing is keep driving to the hole and maybe start kicking out for 3-pointers. Now, when you saw the first round when they played the Lakers, that's what he did in game 1. He penetrated, and when he didn't take it to the hole, he kicked out. He was trying to get his other players involved. And I think you may see a repeat performance of that on tomorrow. So we'll see. All right. Hakeem says it locked him down. Lock who down? You talking about Edwards? Edwards had over 30 points. I think OKC can win it all. I've been telling you OKC is the best team all along, man. But my question is, and some of you guys has been on here for the last week or so, we had our good buddy D Nice. He's a T-Wolves fan, and he's been telling me for 3 weeks how Minnesota is going to beat OKC in 5 games. Not only that, Minnesota is going to win the whole thing. Well, after Minnesota got whipped in game 1, I hadn't seen D Nice, man. So if any of you guys seen D Nice, tell him to holler at us, man. It's a safe space for him. We won't run him down because the team is down 0-2. It's a safe space. So tell him to come on and talk to us, man. We won't run him down. But I'm hoping, as strong as he talked, that he's not one of these kind of internet people who get on and say anything. And because I can't see your face, and I know who you are, you can just say anything and hide behind the screen. Well, we hope D Nice is not that kind of person, man. So when he comes on, we'll wish him well and make him feel comfy on this space. Yes, JC did win the MVP, and they actually celebrated that last night. Pretty much gave him his trophy. But one thing I like about what he did, and a lot of pro players do this, when they win big awards or accomplish something, they celebrate with their teammates. And what he did, he bought all his players Rolex watches. I don't know about the sideline people. A lot of times they will give the staff, everybody on staff, an award. But I don't think he bought everybody a Rolex watch, but he may have bought them something. But definitely the guys on the bench with him, they all got Rolex watches. And of course, that is a great gesture. I didn't see the Rolexes. I missed that part. I must have turned away. Enormous. I don't know who's being rude to me. I don't even know anything about that. I said Randall got locked down. No, Randall didn't get locked down. Randall, he just missing. He was like 2 for 12 or something like that. And the Minnesota coach just pulled him to the side, put him on the bench and say, man, you just don't have it tonight. Let's just go with these other guys. Maybe we can find something in the chaos of you missing all these shots. Maybe it's something we can use for the next game. But yeah, they didn't lock him down. It's just the nature of the game. He's just off. Now he's gonna come on tomorrow and he's gonna have a better performance. Now I don't expect him to score 20 points in the first half, but I expect him to score much more than 6 points. All right, Jihad, how you doing, man? Do they know do you know they made a Brunson streak in New York? No, I don't know anything about that, but given the number of streets in New York, they might already had a Brunson streak. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out, Hakeem. I'd like to see what they are. See if you got them the cheap ones. I think the lowest Rolex you can get is like $6,000, and they go up from there. So knowing Gil just with the money he makes, He's gonna get a max contract when he come back for negotiation time. So I figure he's probably making $40 million a year. Given that, I figure about $2,500 a piece, probably what he spent. Ryan Clifton, what's going on, man? I'm talking about all these optimistic Minnesota fans and how they talk, like Minnesota was going to win the championship, or at least win the Western Conference because they were there last year and it was their time. Everybody wanted to see him, and they talked about Anthony Edwards, how he's going to be the face of the league, and so on and so on and so on about Minnesota, but not realizing or wanting to give credit to OKC. Like, was it Stephen A. Smith say something about we don't know if OKC is ready to take the mantle, if you will. Are they good enough? Is this a smokescreen? In other words, they're basing what happened last year, thinking that it might happen again this year. It's a safe approach, just in case OKC was to do the same thing they did last year, come in with the number one seed and blow it in the semifinals. Once they get that in their mind, they don't want to go out on a limb because they want to be as right as possible. Now, I say that about Smith because if you remember when he first came on the scene at ESPN, the Lakers met the Pistons in the finals, and he was talking about, no, there's no chance that the Pistons can compete with the Lakers. This series is over. It's just a matter of time. Well, hell, Detroit swept the Lakers. So he had nothing to say about that. So the next year he came back, realizing what happened to him the year before. He didn't go out on that limb. Then he took the safe route. Since the Pistons won, he didn't want to pick against them again. So he picked the Detroit Pistons, and they got beat in the finals. So let's just let you know, they're not really speaking what they think. What they're doing is trying to be as right as possible. So you think that this guy is an expert. Yeah, he might know a lot of stuff, but unless you speak it how you really feel it, then you're going to be off. So I've been telling you guys who the best teams are, and I hadn't wavered on that. Minnesota's a good team, but they're only good when they're out running and hitting threes and transition and getting everybody involved. But that doesn't work against OKC because they want to run and do the same damn thing. And if that's the case, I don't know how you're going to keep up when you're not getting the same production that you normally get when you got a lopsided series. Anybody can look good when you're up 3-1 in the series because the other team is not going to give you their best. But what happens when you meet a team that's going to stand up to you straight up? Now you're seeing what's going on. So now Minnesota has to step up and prevent themselves from getting swept. So if you talk about him being the face of the league, do not come here and get swept because next year we don't want to hear that, man. Until Minnesota actually gets to the finals, then I'll start giving them the credit that they deserve. All right. Stephen A. is a biased dude. Well, all those guys are. But you know what? That cat, I found out last year about how much money he was making. I didn't realize he was making double figures, millions. That's pretty good, man. If you can run your mouth like that and get paid, why not do it? But they work the hell out of him. But hell, I work every day too if you're going to pay me $25, $30 million. I mean, you're losing all this other talent, but, I think you should take some of that money away and spread it around a little bit more to make the other people happy, man. All right. Clifton says, Ant isn't the face of the league, as the mouth of the league. Well, I'm saying a lot of people are saying that they think he's the face of the league because of his athletic ability. But I think overall, you want an image of somebody that's completely positive in everything. Anthony Edwards is not completely positive in everything. He's got some questionable things about him. And I think the guy said last night, you just give Gilgeous his MVP trophy, but he's married. So in other words, he's not out there running around doing all the stuff these other guys are doing. So why wouldn't he be the face of the league? He was in the running for the MVP last year. He won it this year. They can't seem to stop him. I mean, if you got that little, you got that 12, 13-foot shot down, he's penetrating, he's getting to the foul line, all these things, man. Hadn't said a word. We hadn't heard anything negative about him. So why wouldn't he be the face of the league? Why aren't people talking about this guy? I don't know. Okay, well, he's Canadian. Given the political climate now, I can understand that. But if you pay attention, a lot of the the better players in the league are now becoming are coming from other places. Jamal Murray, he's from Canada. Gilgis Alexander and his cousin, they from Canada. Jokic, I don't know where he's from, Slovakia or Slovenia, somewhere over there. A lot of players coming from other places. And you can't use that as a hindrance to keeping the true face of the league from being the face of the league. At least that's my opinion. But I think if you got a product like the NBA and you're trying to get it stronger, at least approach the level of the NFL, you want some as squeaky clean as individuals as you can find. And if you got a guy that's working hard and doing all this stuff and he continues to get better and he's married and he's not in the spotlight, but kind of like LeBron. LeBron, for years, you didn't hear anything about LeBron. He didn't say anything negative or none of that. And kept everything tight like it should be. And I think Gilgis is on that same track. Okay, a lot of our NBA players are foreign. It's not their fault. They can play. Well, that's true. I think what helped them is that sanctioned traveling that you call the Euro step. Um, that probably has something to do with it also. But, if I'm an NBA team, I could care less where you come from. If you can help my team get better, then I'm going to sign you up. But I don't know. Maybe they'll go out to the NBA next and say, you got to sign all American players. We'll see about that one. But I doubt it. All right, let's take a look at this poll vote. I say, will Minnesota at least win one game? Most of you think that it will. I am not sure. I don't think they're going to win game 3. I think the crowd is going to boost them. And maybe Minnesota, OKC might try to throw a game. But sometimes when you try to throw a game, you can't even do that. And I think they're in that position. So I think Minnesota's in deep, deep trouble here. All right. Before I go, let's make this point. Again, basketball and everything else is just something to do until football comes back around. Football is always in the news. Not OKC, but Detroit had proposed to have a rule change to have the tush push outlawed. Well, they withdrew that proposal. No, I take that back. They voted on the tush push and it didn't get enough votes. So that's why Detroit was going to pull it back. And that's why the tush push evolved. There wasn't enough votes from the owners. And on the other side of that, the playoff seedings, it also survived. And I think that's a great thing. Let me get it straight now. It was Detroit that proposed the playoff seeding and Green Bay proposed the tush push. That's why they voted on it. Even though they didn't have enough votes, the tush push survived, and Detroit took back their proposal to have the playoff seedings changed. So just in case you don't understand what I mean, if you win a division, no matter what your record is, you're going to get a home game. And you take a team like Tampa, I forget what they were last year, 9-8 or 8-9, and you had 2 teams out of that North Division. Detroit went 15-2, and they beat Minnesota in the last game to push them down to 14-3. So people were saying, why would a team like Minnesota with a 14-3 record have to go on the road in the first round? Well, hell, because they didn't win their division. It's been like that forever. And I don't know what the Rams' record were, but it wasn't that. They had lost 6 or 7 games themselves. So if you're just looking purely from a record standpoint, Minnesota's a better team, right? Well, when they went out there, they got beat. Then Detroit, 15-2, they sat out a week. Came back and hosted the Commanders. I still call them the Redskins, by the way. They got beat. So these 2 programs with the gaudy records, they both lost the first playoff game that they played. So why make a fuss about 2 teams to get their seedings changed and make it easier on them? Well, hell, if you are 14-2 or truly 15-3 or whatever it is, you should be much better than those teams that lost 4 or 5 more games. It's not like you playing in college when you can play anybody and you put together a soft schedule. All these teams playing against each other. So that's why it doesn't really make a difference if that division winner has a worse record than a wild card team. And it was proven when those 2 teams lost in the first round. So I only bring that up to say this. In college, they voted to switch the playoff seedings around, similar to what they did in the NFL last year in that college playoffs. They took the top 4 conference champions and gave them the top 4 seeds, regardless of what the record was. Well, they have taken that away now because of what happened with Ohio State and Oregon. Oregon beat Ohio State in the regular season, but then they sat around for a month while Ohio State played another game, and Ohio State didn't have the rust that Oregon had. And by the time Oregon got the rust off, they were down 30 points. That didn't look good for the committee. Then the SMU getting beat half to death by Penn State, and the other teams that got beat, it just didn't look good. So they want to try to avoid that image looking like that again. So they said now that the top 4 teams, you're still going to get the conference champions, are still going to get in the playoffs, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be guaranteed high seedings anymore. So in other words, it opens the door for 2 teams from the SEC who play in the championship game. The team that loses the championship game is going to be viewed higher because now the SEC is supposed to be so much superior to everybody else. And because they're so superior to everybody else, they are going to have a higher seed now than the rest of the teams. So that Big Ten champion might now be seeded 8th. Hey, how you doing?
Are you videoing?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You gonna be around?
Yeah, look. Can I get right from now to the end of our school year?
Today?
Not today, starting Tuesday when we get back.
That's fine.
I'm gonna let you go ahead, Tim, but Damon.
I talked to you about it. Wait, I'll come and see you.
All right.
All right. All right, sorry about that. Again, the college teams are not going to be seeded according to the conference champion. What they're going to be seeded by is going to be by record. And what you're going to have is SEC teams are going to jump some other champion. He might have 2 or 3 losses, but he's going to be rated more favorable than some other lower conference, and they're going to have a higher seed. So all that crying the SEC people did, it worked out in their favor, but it don't make a difference. It's just going to open the door for one of those smaller conferences to turn around and beat one of those lower rated SEC teams, and they're going to be back at the table next year, and what you're going to have is something closer to what you already had. So it's a big circle, and they're going to keep crying. And the Big Ten and the SEC, they got all the power. They control everything because they have these sheer numbers. And I think because the money is so good, these teams are going to stick around for a while. But I still say the power of the fan is going to win out. If I'm from big time university like Oklahoma, and my football team is used to being one of the top 2 teams in conferences on average over the last 70 years, and all of a sudden I get into this super conference, and if I lose 1 or 2 games, I go from the top 2 to now I'm 8 or 9, or you do like you did this year, you might be 14. Those fans aren't going to stand that because everybody wants to feel like their school is the best. They want to maintain their regional rivalries, and then they want to say that we're the best. Not necessarily prove that we're the best. They want to say that we're the best. And you can't do that in these super conferences because you might get me this year. You might have got the bounce last week, but this week is going to go against you. And you're going to be on the top. In 2 or 3 years, you're going to be down on the bottom. And I think the fans who are used to having their teams in the top, they won't stand for that, especially now with ticket prices and everything going up to pay the players. They want production. And if I have to go back down to a lesser conference to show that I'm probably just as good as anybody else without really having to prove it, that's what they'll do. So the dominoes are going to start falling when Stanford and California get tired of flying across the country all the time to play games, especially on these lower tier games like softball and golf, tennis. They don't have time for that, man. It's just too much back and forth. And a lot of things can happen, man. And I just think that's going to go away. So once Stanford and California go back, they're going to probably end up rejoining the reconfigured Pac-12. And that's going to start the dominoes to falling because the money is going to be there no matter where you go. So believe that. All right, Clifton, have a good day, man. I wouldn't be surprised if they got swept. Yes, sir. They've been avoiding all over the world. Okay, I think the Giants have a better offensive line this year. I think, Mr. Glass, the Giants should be a better team, but then you're going to have this optimism until the first game starts. And once the first game starts, then we'll see who got what. Until then, we don't know. Corey, what's going on, man? Um, that's that horn. Let me know. I got to get back to work. Um, can Minnesota win at least one game? Most of you are saying yes. I like to see him win at least one game, but it would be poetic justice for this so-called anointed team of the West to go 4-1, 4-1, and then get beat 4-1. At least they have some symmetry going on there. But in the meantime, I just think they got a problem. So just to recap, the great Minnesota team who's supposed to come out of the West and dethrone OKC in 7 games at the most are now down 2-0. And starting with tomorrow, they got to climb out of this hole, man. And I don't see him doing it, especially if Randall, he can't produce. He was off yesterday. He didn't do a whole lot in the second half of the first game, and it just don't look so good for Minnesota right now. Maybe Edwards is going to have to do like Jokic and score 45, 50 points to keep his team in the game. But even then, that keeps Randall still out of the game. And it just don't look good for Minnesota. And I saw this coming. The strength of Minnesota's when they getting out on that 3-point shot in the transition and running the floor, they're dangerous. And they had been dangerous for the most part of the second half of the season. But the problem is OKC, they like to get out and run too. And do you really want to unchain those guys? And I don't think so. So we'll see what Minnesota does tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Knicks, let's see if they're going to be shell-shocked tonight after blowing that lead against Indiana. Indiana looks like a team of destiny, but a lot of times those team of destinies, yeah, you upset your way all the way through the rounds, or you're going to get to the point where you're running against a great team where you can't get that break. But now you're going to be looking like you don't belong. Ask TCU, if you understand what I'm saying. You still deserve to be there, but sometimes you just got to, like Billy Joe used to say, you got to pay the piper, man. All right. So I appreciate you guys chiming in with me. Salute to you, Hakeem Glass. We talked to Giants all year. I got that Discord thing finally working. I put the link in the chat, and I didn't do it today, but I'll do it next time. But we got to get this Discord going so we can talk this football, man. But in the meantime, I got to get up out of here. I got to go to work and go sign in. So wherever you are in the world, appreciate you chiming in with me. And unless there's breaking news, I'll be back at you in the morning, or if not, at the latest Monday morning. So until then, you guys have a great day, great weekend. Until the next time, I'm out. All right. Yeah, Minnesota, they're a good team, but they're not ready to be